The Great Turtle vs. Rabbit Race, Part 2 of Part 4. An hour and 32 had passed, and now it seemed it was Willie who was progressing best. He had rested in the mud, and proceeded to the EFGC, where his reservations were ready. The waiter delivered what was to be the first of his 7-course meal. He had burned a lot of energy and wasn't about to run out of fuel. He sure did have his fair share of gas. Clearly, covering all his actions was not particularly pleasant. When we last saw Jordan, it was 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, 2 steps to the right, 1 to the left. His fresh frog legs were an attractive appetizer for all the villagers within the ever-calm pond, and it's not clear if they were satisfied or if Jordan simply gave up and ran away. The records show he didn't finish the race, and he didn't return to the beginning. But we indicated earlier some of the records were destroyed, and some of the details have been lost, so where he went is anybody's guess. Little Romeo's pace had quickened, and he had proceeded an estimated 8,828 yards. He turned the corner, heading back in the expected westerly direction when he ran into Ramona Lisa, his high school sweetheart. She looked fine, and she was every bit as interested in him as he was in her, and we all know rabbits are very considerate when it comes to relationships such as this. Romeo gladly offered up all the time required to satisfy her needs, and she did too. They took a little nap, shared a camel, and the time passed. 2, maybe 3 hours. Meanwhile, Jordan was gone. He simply disappeared like the records that were lost. By the same token, the last we know for sure, Willie was still munching, stuck on course number 3. It seems, and this is mere speculation, he was paid off in food and drink just to stay out of the way. Doesn't really matter who did it. This was and always will be the Great Turtle vs. Rabbit Race, and everything else is just everything else. Let's continue with the rest of the middle, and end with a dramatic final conclusion. Shelley had just moved her back left leg for the 33rd time, and just so you know, and to keep things in the proper perspective, her tail finally crossed the line. No, not the finish line, the starting line. She was relatively large and her steps were just too small, and honestly somebody somewhere had to do something to make this a competitive race. Romeo finally zipped up and zipped off towards the finish line. There was just 1,008 yards to go, almost the exact same distance Shelley had left. Re-energized as Benny was, and the remaining distance was disappearing like the sand through an hourglass. He got to the 500-yard marker, and the echoing sounds of the loon spurred him closer and closer to the Playboy Bunny Mansion, where the welcoming 3rd-floor red light was turned on. Yikes! There were bunny girls with cottontails and big red balloons pulling him astray one more time, and the re-energized rabbit had more than he could resist, so he went inside just to take a closer look.